Have you ever woken from a dream so vivid, so rich with details you'd never experienced, that you wondered where those images could have possibly come from? What if I told you that some of the world's most respected consciousness researchers are beginning to question whether your dreams actually originate inside your individual brain entirely at all? Tonight we're going to explore a possibility that might fundamentally change how you think about the nature of your sleeping mind. Welcome to another gentle journey into the mysteries that surround us. I'm here to guide you through some of the most fascinating questions at the intersection of neuroscience, quantum physics, and consciousness studies. As always, settle in wherever feels comfortable. Whether you're listening from a quiet bedroom, a cozy reading nook, or perhaps during a late evening walk, let these ideas wash over you like waves on a distant shore. Before we drift deeper into this exploration, I want to acknowledge that what we're about to discuss exists at the very edges of current scientific understanding. These are speculative ideas, not proven scientific facts. Yet sometimes, the most profound discoveries begin as seemingly impossible questions that eventually reshape our entire worldview. Tonight's question is particularly intriguing. For centuries, we've assumed that dreams are private theatres of the mind, personal productions staged entirely within the confines of our individual brains. But what if that assumption is wrong? What if your dreams aren't contained within the boundaries of your skull, but are instead experienced as windows into something far more vast and interconnected? Let me begin with a story that might sound familiar. Sarah, a grandmother living in rural Minnesota, woke one morning in 1987 with tears streaming down her face. She had dreamed of her grandson, David, who was studying abroad in London, standing in what appeared to be a hospital room, his arm in a cast, looking frightened and alone. The dream felt so real, so urgent, that she immediately called her daughter to share her concern. 3 hours later, the phone rang. David had indeed been in an accident, breaking his arm in exactly the way Sarah had seen in her dream. The hospital room matched her description perfectly, down to the pale green curtains and the specific way the afternoon light filtered through the windows. Now you might think this is simply coincidence, the kind of story that gets passed down through families and grows more remarkable with each telling. And perhaps it is, but Sarah's experience represents something that researchers are finding increasingly difficult to dismiss as purely coincidence. Across cultures and throughout history, people report dreams that appear to contain information they couldn't possibly have known through normal channels. As you listen to this, take a moment to consider your own dream experiences. Have you ever dreamed of places you'd never been, yet felt an uncanny sense of familiarity when you later encountered them in waking life? Have you found yourself dreaming of people you'd never met, only to encounter them days or weeks later? These experiences might be more than mere curiosities. Recent discoveries in neuroscience are revealing that the dreaming brain operates in ways that challenge our fundamental assumptions about consciousness itself. When researchers examine the neural activity of lucid dreamers, people who become aware they're dreaming while still in the dream state, they find something remarkable. The brain patterns don't quite match normal REM sleep, nor do they match ordinary waking consciousness. Dr. Chartai Demirel and his team at Radboud University have identified what appears to be a third state of consciousness, one that exists in the liminal space between sleeping and waking. During lucid dreams, specific brain regions associated with spatial awareness and self-perception light up with high-frequency beta waves, the same patterns we see during complex problem-solving in waking life. But here's where it gets truly intriguing. These beta waves appear in areas of the brain that aren't typically active during normal REM sleep. It's as if the dreaming mind gains access to neural networks that remain dormant during ordinary dreams. Some consciousness researchers are beginning to wonder whether these networks might function more like receivers, tuning into information that may exist beyond the individual brain. This speculation draws inspiration from quantum physics, where particles can become entangled across vast distances, instantly affecting each other regardless of the space between them. While we must be extremely cautious about drawing direct parallels between quantum mechanics and consciousness, some interpretations suggest that if quantum effects play any role in neural processing, they might operate differently during altered states like dreaming. The renowned physicist Henry Stapp has proposed that consciousness itself might be more fundamental than matter, operating in what he calls an idea-like rather than matter-like reality. This remains a highly speculative interpretation, with no scientific consensus, but it opens fascinating questions about the nature of awareness during sleep states. Consider for a moment how dreams routinely violate the laws of physics. You fly without wings, speak with people who died years ago, find yourself in impossible architectures that shift and morph with each glance. Your dreaming mind accepts these impossibilities as perfectly natural. What if this isn't a bug in the system, but a feature? What if dreams operate according to different rules as a subjective experience, precisely because they're perceived as accessing different layers of reality? Carl Jung, the pioneering psychologist, proposed something he called the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of human experience that transcends individual memory. Jung suggested that certain symbols, themes, and archetypes appear consistently across cultures and throughout history because they emerge from this deeper, collective layer of the psyche. Jung's observations were based on decades of clinical work, during which he noticed that his patients often dreamed of symbols and mythological figures they had never encountered in their personal lives. A city-dwelling patient might dream of detailed agricultural practices from ancient civilizations. Someone with no exposure to Eastern philosophy might dream of complex mandala patterns that perfectly match Tibetan Buddhist art. While Jung's collective unconscious remains a psychological theory rather than a proven phenomenon, modern neuroscience has discovered something that might provide a partial neurological basis for his observations. Mirror neuron systems in the brain fire not only when we perform an action, but also when we observe others performing the same action. These neural networks create a kind of shared experience, blurring the boundaries between self and other. During sleep, when the normal filters of waking consciousness are relaxed, might these mirror systems become more active, more receptive? Could dreams represent moments when individual consciousness feels as though it briefly connects with something larger, more collective? Take a deep breath and imagine what this might mean for your understanding of yourself. If consciousness extends beyond the individual brain in certain interpretations, then your dreams might be like radio broadcasts from a vast interconnected network of awareness. Sometimes you receive signals clearly, sometimes they're static, and sometimes you tune into stations you didn't even know existed. The biologist Rupert Sheldrake has proposed a theory called morphic resonance, which suggests that memory and learning aren't stored exclusively in individual brains, but exist in fields that connect all members of a species. According to this controversial hypothesis, when you learn something new, you're not just creating neural pathways in your own brain, you're also theoretically contributing to a collective field of knowledge that others can potentially access. Sheldrake's theory remains highly speculative and is not accepted by mainstream science. However, it provides an intriguing framework for thinking about dreams that contain knowledge the dreamer couldn't have acquired through normal experience. If morphic fields exist, dreams might be interpreted as access points to this collective reservoir of information. Consider the recurring dream motifs that appear across cultures: the maze, the falling sensation, the pursuit by an unknown presence, the discovery of hidden rooms in familiar buildings. These themes appear with such consistency that they suggest something deeper than personal psychology at work. Perhaps most intriguingly, some researchers are exploring whether dreams might involve what they cautiously term non-local consciousness. This idea draws inspiration from quantum non-locality, where particles can influence each other instantaneously across any distance. While applying quantum principles directly to consciousness remains highly controversial and unproven, the metaphor is compelling. If consciousness during dreams operates more like a quantum field than a classical computer as a conceptual analogy, it might explain how dreamers occasionally access information that appears to come from beyond their individual experience. This could account for subjectively prophetic feeling dreams, shared dream experiences between people in different locations, and dreams containing historically accurate details about events the dreamer never studied. The neuroscientist Ibn Alexander, who experienced a profound near-death experience during a week-long coma, describes consciousness as existing independently of brain activity. While his claims remain controversial within the scientific community, studies of near-death experiences have documented cases where patients report detailed observations of events that occurred while their brains showed no measurable activity using standard monitoring tools. These findings don't prove that consciousness can exist outside the brain, but they do challenge our assumptions about the relationship between awareness and neural activity. If consciousness can operate in altered ways during near-death states, might something similar occur during dreams? As you contemplate these possibilities, notice how they might appear in your own dream experiences. Have you ever had a dream that felt more real than reality itself? Have you found yourself in dream environments that seemed to possess their own logic, their own consistent rules that differed from a waking physics but remained internally coherent? These experiences might represent moments when your consciousness briefly accessed what some researchers metaphorically describe as parallel information streams. Not parallel universes in the science fiction sense, but parallel layers of awareness that coexist with ordinary waking consciousness. The extended mind theory, developed by philosophers Andy Clark and David Chalmers, proposes that consciousness and cognition aren't confined to the brain, but extend into the environment through our tools, relationships, and cultural connections. While this theory typically focuses on waking consciousness, it raises intriguing questions about dreaming. If the mind extends beyond the brain during waking life, connecting us to information networks through language, technology, and social bonds, what happens to these connections during sleep? Do they dissolve, or do they perhaps become more fluid, more permeable? Some meditation traditions have long held that consciousness is not produced by the brain, but rather flows through it, like water through a channel. In this view, the brain serves more as a focusing device than as a generator of awareness. Dreams in these traditions represent moments when consciousness flows less restricted by the usual channels of sensory input and logical processing. While these remain spiritual and philosophical perspectives rather than scientific facts, they offer a different way of thinking about dream experiences that transcend ordinary personal memory and experience. The question of where dreams occur becomes even more fascinating when we consider the role of time in dreaming consciousness. Dreams routinely compress, expand, and rearrange temporal sequences. You might experience years of dream time in minutes of sleep, or find past, present, and future events occurring simultaneously in the same dream narrative. This temporal flexibility in dreams mirrors certain interpretations of quantum mechanics, where time is viewed not as a linear progression, but as a dimension through which consciousness may subjectively navigate. While this remains purely speculative, it opens intriguing possibilities about dreams appearing to access information from different temporal coordinates. Perhaps your dreams aren't just processing yesterday's experiences and random neural firings. Perhaps they're experienced as brief glimpses into a realm where consciousness operates according to different principles, where the boundaries between individual minds feel more permeable, where information flows through channels we're only beginning to understand. As we continue this exploration, remember that we're venturing into territory where science meets mystery, where established facts give way to fascinating questions. The journey we're taking together isn't about finding definitive answers, but about opening our minds to possibilities that might reshape how we understand the nature of consciousness itself. In our next segment, we'll delve deeper into the specific mechanisms that might allow consciousness to extend beyond individual brains. During dreams, exploring cutting-edge research on quantum biology, the latest findings in consciousness studies, and the profound implications these discoveries might have for understanding who and what we truly are. For now, let these ideas settle gently in your awareness like snow falling on a quiet landscape. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, you might find yourself wondering about the true destination of your dreaming mind, and whether the stories that unfold behind your closed eyes originate from somewhere far more vast and interconnected than you ever imagined. The phenomenon becomes even more intriguing when we examine the neurological mechanisms that might support consciousness operating beyond individual brain boundaries. Recent advances in quantum biology have revealed that quantum effects aren't confined to sterile laboratory conditions or the vastness of space. They occur within living systems, including potentially within the neural networks of your sleeping brain. Consider the work of Dr. Matthew Fisher at the University of California, whose research suggests that quantum processes might persist in warm, wet biological environments far longer than previously thought possible. While his work focuses primarily on neural microtubules and calcium phosphate structures, it opens the door to questions about whether quantum coherence might play a role in consciousness during altered states like dreaming. This isn't science fiction, though it remains highly speculative. Fisher's calculations indicate that certain biological structures could maintain quantum entanglement for periods lasting minutes or even hours, rather than the microseconds typically expected in biological systems. If this proves accurate, it might provide a physical mechanism for how consciousness could access non-local information during dreams. Take a moment to picture your brain not as an isolated computer, but as an exquisitely sensitive receiver, capable of detecting subtle quantum fluctuations that permeate the fabric of reality itself. During waking consciousness, the constant bombardment of sensory input might mask these delicate signals, but during sleep, when the usual channels of perception quiet down, perhaps these quantum whispers become audible to your dreaming awareness. The renowned consciousness researcher Dr. Stuart Hameroff has collaborated with physicist Sir Roger Penrose to propose what they call orchestrated objective reduction, a theory suggesting that consciousness emerges from quantum processes within the brain's microtubules. While their theory remains controversial and unproven, it offers a framework for understanding how quantum effects might influence conscious experience. In their model, consciousness isn't produced by classical neural computation, but emerges from quantum state reductions occurring within the protein structures that form the skeleton of neurons. During dreams, when normal synaptic activity follows different patterns, these quantum processes might operate with greater freedom, potentially accessing information from what Penrose describes as the quantum vacuum itself. Now, you might wonder what the quantum vacuum has to do with your dreams about flying or conversations with deceased relatives. According to some interpretations of quantum field theory, the vacuum isn't empty at all, but teems with virtual particles and zero-point energy fluctuations. This quantum foam, as it's sometimes called, might serve as a vast information reservoir, encoding patterns and connections that extend far beyond individual brains. Imagine consciousness during dreams as temporarily merging with this underlying quantum field, like a radio briefly picking up signals from distant stations during optimal atmospheric conditions. Most of the time, you receive only local broadcasts, your own memories and experiences. But occasionally, under specific circumstances, you might tune into something far more exotic. This perspective finds unexpected support in the study of shared dreaming experiences. While such reports are anecdotal and impossible to verify scientifically, the consistency of these accounts across cultures suggests something worth considering. Identical twins, married couples, and close friends sometimes report remarkably similar dream content occurring on the same night, despite being separated by great distances. Sarah Janes, a dream researcher at the University of London, has been collecting such accounts for over 2 decades. While she emphasises that these remain unexplained phenomena rather than proven facts, the detailed correspondences in some cases stretch the boundaries of coincidence. 2 sisters, living on different continents, both dream of their childhood dog on the same night, complete with specific details about a red collar neither had mentioned to the other for years. Dr. Jane suggests that if consciousness operates partially as a quantum field phenomenon, it might explain how emotionally bonded individuals could share dream experiences. Quantum entanglement between particles persists regardless of distance, and if some aspects of consciousness involve quantum processes, similar non-local connections might theoretically exist between closely bonded minds. As you consider these possibilities, notice how they might reframe your understanding of isolation and connection. If consciousness extends beyond individual brains through quantum channels, you're never truly alone, even in the privacy of your dreams. You're part of an interconnected web of awareness that spans not just across space, but potentially across time itself. The temporal aspects of dream consciousness present perhaps the most puzzling questions of all. Precognitive dreams, experiences where dreamers report seeing future events, have been documented throughout history. While most such claims can be attributed to coincidence, selective memory, or unconscious pattern recognition, a small percentage resist easy explanation. Dr. Julia Mossbridge, a neuroscientist at Northwestern University, has conducted controlled studies on what she terms predictive anticipatory activity. Her research, while remaining controversial, suggests that the human nervous system sometimes shows measurable responses to randomly selected future stimuli before they are actually presented. This phenomenon occurs during both waking and sleeping states. If such anticipatory responses represent subjective or statistical patterns rather than direct prediction, dreams might serve as windows into temporal dimensions that ordinary waking consciousness cannot access. The dreaming brain, freed from the linear constraints of sequential sensory input, might occasionally glimpse probability patterns that haven't yet collapsed into definite outcomes. Think of time not as a river flowing in one direction, but as an ocean where consciousness during dreams might briefly navigate in multiple dimensions. The future, in this metaphor, isn't fixed but exists as a landscape of potentials, some more probable than others. Dreams might occasionally provide previews of these probability patterns, experienced as glimpses of possible tomorrows. This interpretation draws inspiration from the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, where every possible outcome of quantum events is often described as occurring in parallel realities. While this remains a highly speculative interpretation of quantum physics, with no scientific consensus, it offers a framework for understanding dreams that appear to access information from alternate timelines or probability spaces. Dr. Amit Goswami, a former quantum physicist turned consciousness researcher, proposes that consciousness itself might exist outside the normal flow of time, occasionally being described as accessing what he calls creative possibilities that haven't yet manifested in physical reality. Dreams, in his view, represent moments when individual consciousness is subjectively experienced as briefly merging with this timeless realm of pure potential. These ideas venture far beyond established science into the realm of speculation and philosophy. Yet they address questions that conventional neuroscience struggles to explain. Why do dreams sometimes contain information that later appears accurate about future events? Why do people separated by vast distances occasionally report nearly identical dream experiences? Why do dreams often feel more real and significant than waking life itself? The mystery deepens when we consider the role of intention and attention in shaping dream content. Lucid dreamers, who maintain awareness during dreams, report being able to deliberately explore dream environments and interact with dream characters in ways that feel as real as waking experience. Some advanced lucid dreamers report experiences of accessing information during dreams that they later perceive as verifiable in waking life. Dr. Stephen LeBurge, a pioneer in lucid dreaming research at Stanford University, has documented cases where lucid dreamers successfully perform predetermined tasks within dreams, sometimes accessing information or solving problems that elude their waking minds. While these remain individual reports rather than controlled scientific studies, they suggest that consciousness during dreams might operate with capabilities that feel as though they extend beyond ordinary waking awareness. The implications extend beyond individual experience to questions about the fundamental nature of reality itself. If consciousness is interpreted as accessing non-local information during dreams, what does this suggest about the relationship between mind and physical reality? Are you a brain that somehow generates consciousness, or are you consciousness that temporarily inhabits a brain? Ancient wisdom traditions have long held that consciousness is primary, with physical reality emerging from awareness rather than the reverse. Modern physics, particularly quantum mechanics, has revealed that observation plays a fundamental role in determining physical outcomes. The famous double-slit experiment demonstrates that the act of measurement appears to influence the behavior of quantum particles. While we must be extremely cautious about extrapolating from quantum mechanics to consciousness, some interpretations suggest that awareness might play a more fundamental role in shaping reality than classical physics assumed. Dreams as altered states of consciousness might provide subjective glimpses into this deeper relationship between mind and world. Consider your own dream experiences through this lens. Have you ever had a dream that felt prophetic, that seemed to warn you about something that later occurred? Have you found yourself in dream conversations with people who shared information you didn't consciously possess? Have you explored dream landscapes that felt more vivid and meaningful than many waking experiences? These might not be mere curiosities or random neural firing. They might represent moments when your consciousness is experienced as briefly accessing layers of reality that remain hidden during ordinary waking awareness. The boundaries between self and world, between past and future, between possible and actual, might become subjectively, temporarily permeable during the altered states we call dreams. The neuroscientist Dr. Christoph Koch, despite his generally materialist approach to consciousness, acknowledges that the hard problem of consciousness, the question of how subjective experience emerges from objective brain activity, remains unsolved. Dreams intensify this mystery by demonstrating that consciousness can generate complete, immersive realities using only internal neural activity. If the brain can create experiences indistinguishable from external reality using purely internal processes, what does this tell us about the nature of waking experience itself? Perhaps the distinction between internal and external, between mind-generated and world-generated experience, is less clear than we assume. Dr. Antti Revonsuo, a consciousness researcher at the University of Turku, proposes that dreams serve an evolutionary function by allowing the brain to simulate threatening situations in a safe environment. This threat simulation theory explains why many dreams involve danger, pursuit, or challenging scenarios. The dreaming mind rehearses responses to potential threats, improving survival chances in waking life. But this evolutionary perspective doesn't fully account for the stranger aspects of dream content. Why do dreams include impossible physics, conversations with historical figures, or glimpses of places that don't exist in waking reality? These elements serve no obvious survival function, yet they constitute some of the most memorable and meaningful dream experiences. Perhaps dreams serve multiple functions simultaneously. They might consolidate memory and rehearse survival scenarios while also being experienced as providing access to non-local information through quantum channels. The same neural networks that process everyday experience during waking life might be interpreted as serving as receivers for more exotic information during the altered states of sleep. As you drift deeper into contemplation of these mysteries, imagine what it might mean for your sense of identity and purpose. If your consciousness is experienced as extending beyond your individual brain, connecting you to vast networks of information and awareness, who and what are you really? Are you an isolated biological entity struggling for survival in an indifferent universe? Or are you a temporarily focused expression of something far more vast and interconnected? These questions don't have definitive answers, but exploring them might enrich your understanding of your own dream experiences. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, you might find yourself paying closer attention to the transition between waking and dreaming consciousness. You might notice the moment when the boundaries of ordinary awareness begin to soften and expand. If you enjoy drifting through these explorations without interruption, members get every episode 48 hours early, completely ad-free. You can join them whenever you feel ready. The journey we're sharing goes deeper each time, into territories where science meets mystery and wonder finds its home in rigorous inquiry. The research continues to evolve, with new discoveries emerging regularly about the nature of consciousness, quantum biology, and the mysterious processes that occur during sleep. Dr. Giulio Tononi's integrated information theory proposes that consciousness corresponds to integrated information in any system, not just biological brains. This theory suggests that consciousness might be a fundamental feature of reality, like mass or electric charge. If consciousness is indeed fundamental rather than emergent, dreams might represent moments when individual awareness is experienced as reconnecting with this underlying field of consciousness that permeates all reality. Your dreaming mind might briefly merge with what some traditions call universal consciousness, cosmic awareness, or the collective unconscious. The physicist, Dr. David Chalmers, famous for formulating the hard problem of consciousness, has suggested that consciousness might involve non-physical properties that interact with but aren't reducible to brain activity. While this remains speculative, it provides a framework for understanding how dreams might be perceived as accessing information that transcends individual neural networks. Recent studies on meditation and altered states have shown that contemplative practices can dramatically alter brain connectivity patterns, sometimes creating states of awareness that meditators describe as boundless or non-local. These neurological changes might offer clues about the mechanisms underlying extraordinary dream experiences. Dr. Judson Brewer's research at Brown University has documented how experienced meditators show increased activity in brain networks associated with self-awareness and decreased activity in the default mode network, the brain system typically associated with self-referential thinking. During dreams, similar changes might occur spontaneously, temporarily dissolving the boundaries of individual selfhood. When the sense of separate self dissolves, even temporarily, consciousness might naturally expand to encompass broader fields of awareness. This could explain why some dreams feel more like memories of actual experiences rather than fantasies generated by an individual brain. You might feel as though you're remembering experiences that occurred in states of expanded consciousness. The implications ripple outward into questions about healing, creativity, and spiritual experience. If consciousness is interpreted as accessing non-local information during dreams, might this explain the tradition of healing dreams found in cultures worldwide? Indigenous shamans, ancient Greek dream temples, and modern therapeutic dream work all recognize dreams as sources of guidance and insight that transcend individual knowledge. The artist Salvador Dali famously used hypnagogic states, the transitional moments between waking and sleeping, to access surreal imagery for his paintings. The chemist Auguste Kekule reportedly discovered the ring structure of benzene through a dream of a snake biting its own tail. The mathematician Srinivasa Ramanujan claimed that the goddess Namagiri revealed mathematical formulas to him in dreams. These creative breakthroughs might represent more than lucky accidents or subconscious processing. If consciousness during dreams is experienced as accessing information fields that exist beyond individual brains, creative inspiration might be understood as tuning into patterns and possibilities that haven't yet manifested in ordinary reality. As we continue exploring these profound mysteries, remember that we're engaging with questions that touch the very foundations of existence itself. The nature of consciousness, the relationship between mind and reality, the possibility of non-local awareness. These aren't merely academic topics, but intimate aspects of your own daily experience. Every night, as you transition into sleep, you participate in one of the most mysterious processes known to science. Your individual awareness transforms, expands, and may be experienced as connecting with something far greater than your waking mind can imagine. The dreams that follow might be messages from the depths of your own psyche, or they might be experienced as glimpses into the vast, interconnected web of consciousness that some researchers believe underlies all of reality. In our final exploration, we'll delve into the practical implications of these ideas and discover how understanding the possible non-local nature of dream consciousness might transform not only how you experience your dreams, but how you understand your place in the grand tapestry of existence itself. The journey we're sharing leads toward questions that have no final answers, only deeper and more beautiful mysteries that invite us ever inward, ever outward, into the heart of what it means to be aware. The boundaries between what we experience as individual consciousness and the broader fabric of reality may be far more porous than science has traditionally assumed. As researchers delve deeper into the mechanisms of dreaming, they're uncovering phenomena that challenge our most basic assumptions about where the mind ends and the world begins. Dr. Dean Radin, senior scientist at the Institute of Noetic Sciences, has spent decades investigating what he carefully terms anomalous consciousness phenomena. While his work remains controversial within mainstream academia, his controlled laboratory studies have documented statistical correlations between distant individuals that exceed what chance would predict. When one person enters REM sleep, monitoring equipment sometimes detects subtle physiological changes in a connected partner sleeping in a separate, electromagnetically shielded room. These findings remain preliminary and require extensive replication before drawing conclusions, yet they hint at the possibility that consciousness during dreams might operate according to principles we're only beginning to understand. If awareness is interpreted as transcending the physical boundaries of individual brains, dreams might serve as natural laboratories where these connections become temporarily visible. Consider the phenomenon of mutual dreaming, where individuals report sharing remarkably similar dream experiences without prior communication. While such accounts remain anecdotal, the consistency of these reports across cultures suggests patterns worth investigating. Two colleagues working on the same challenging project both dream of identical solutions on the same night. Separated siblings dream of their childhood home with matching details they hadn't discussed in years. Dr. Montague Ullman, a psychiatrist who conducted dream telepathy experiments at Maimonides Medical Center in the 1960s and 70s, documented numerous cases where sleeping subjects appeared to incorporate images being viewed by distant participants into their dream narratives. While these studies face methodological criticisms and haven't been consistently replicated, they open questions about the permeability of consciousness during sleep states that continue to intrigue researchers today. The neurological substrate for such phenomena remains mysterious. However, recent discoveries about quantum effects in biological systems offer intriguing possibilities. Dr. Gregory Engel's work at the University of California has demonstrated that photosynthesis relies on quantum coherence to achieve its remarkable efficiency. Plants and bacteria maintain quantum entanglement at biological temperatures, suggesting that warm, wet biological systems can indeed support quantum processes. This discovery revolutionized our understanding of quantum biology and opened questions about whether similar processes might occur in neural tissue. While the brain operates at much higher temperatures than typical quantum systems, certain cellular structures might maintain coherent states for brief periods. During sleep, when normal synaptic activity follows altered patterns, these quantum processes might operate with greater freedom. Imagine your sleeping brain as an exquisitely sensitive instrument, capable of detecting quantum fluctuations that permeate all of space. During waking consciousness, the constant activity of sensory processing and logical thinking might mask these subtle signals. But in the quiet depths of sleep, when the usual channels of perception dim, perhaps these quantum whispers become audible to dreaming awareness. Dr. Henry Stapp, a physicist who has spent decades exploring the interface between quantum mechanics and consciousness, suggests that the quantum realm operates according to what he calls idea-like rather than matter-like principles. This remains a highly speculative interpretation with no scientific consensus, but it offers a framework for understanding how consciousness might interact with quantum fields during altered states. If consciousness involves quantum processes, as some researchers cautiously propose, dreams might represent moments when individual awareness is experienced as briefly merging with the underlying quantum field that some interpretations suggest connects all matter and energy. This wouldn't involve supernatural mechanisms, but rather the natural operation of quantum principles we're still learning to understand. As you contemplate these possibilities, notice how they might reframe your relationship with your own dream experiences. The conversation you had last night with your grandmother who passed away years ago, the detailed exploration of a city you've never visited, the solution to a problem that had puzzled you for weeks. These experiences might represent more than random neural activity or wish fulfillment. The question of time in dream consciousness becomes particularly fascinating when viewed through quantum perspectives. In quantum mechanics, time isn't the absolute constant that classical physics assumed. Einstein's relativity showed that time dilates with gravity and velocity, while quantum mechanics suggests that temporal relationships between events can be more fluid than everyday experience suggests. Dreams routinely demonstrate this temporal fluidity. You experience entire lifetimes in minutes of sleep, witness past and future events simultaneously, find yourself aging backwards or forwards within a single dream narrative. This temporal plasticity in dreams might be interpreted as reflecting the operation of consciousness in quantum time, where the linear sequence of classical causation gives way to more complex relationships between events. Dr. Julia Mossbridge's research on predictive anticipatory activity has documented measurable physiological responses to randomly selected future stimuli occurring before those stimuli are actually presented. While this phenomenon remains poorly understood and controversial, it suggests that the nervous system might occasionally access information about future probability patterns. If such anticipatory responses represent statistical or perceptual effects rather than literal foresight, dreams might serve as windows into what some researchers metaphorically describe as probability space, the realm of potential outcomes that haven't yet collapsed into definite events. Your dreaming mind might occasionally navigate this landscape of possibilities, experiencing potential futures as present realities. This interpretation draws inspiration from the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, though we must emphasize that this remains a highly speculative application of quantum theory with no scientific consensus. The many worlds interpretation suggests that every quantum measurement creates parallel realities where each possible outcome occurs. While this remains an unproven interpretation of quantum physics, it offers a conceptual framework for understanding dreams that seem to access alternate timelines or probability patterns. Take a breath and consider what this might mean for your understanding of precognitive dreams. That unsettling dream about a friend's accident that later occurred. The vision of meeting someone new that proved remarkably accurate. These experiences might not represent supernatural perception, but rather the natural operation of consciousness in quantum time, where future probabilities occasionally become visible to dreaming awareness. The implications extend beyond individual experience to questions about healing and therapeutic intervention. Indigenous healing traditions worldwide have long recognized dreams as sources of diagnostic information and therapeutic guidance. Shamanic practices often involve what anthropologists call dream healing, where healers claim to access information about patients' conditions through dream states. While such practices remain outside conventional medicine, some researchers are exploring whether dream states might provide access to information about biological systems that isn't available to ordinary waking consciousness. Dr. Larry Dossey, a physician who has studied what he terms non-local healing, documents cases where healers report receiving diagnostic insights through dreams that later prove medically accurate. These remain anecdotal reports rather than controlled scientific studies, but they suggest possibilities worth investigating. If consciousness during dreams can access non-local information, it might explain traditional healing practices that rely on dream guidance. The dreaming mind might occasionally perceive patterns in biological systems that escape normal sensory detection. The role of intention and attention in shaping dream content becomes particularly intriguing from this perspective. Experienced lucid dreamers report being able to deliberately explore dream environments and seek specific information during dreams. Some advanced practitioners claim to access knowledge during dreams that they later verify in waking life. Dr. Stephen LeBurge's research at Stanford documented cases where lucid dreamers successfully performed predetermined tasks within dreams, sometimes solving complex problems that had puzzled their waking minds. While these remain individual reports requiring further scientific investigation, they suggest that consciousness during dreams might operate with capabilities that transcend ordinary waking awareness. The Tibetan Buddhist practice of dream yoga represents one of the most sophisticated approaches to working with dream consciousness developed by any culture. Practitioners train to maintain awareness during dreams while using dream states to explore what they describe as the fundamental nature of reality itself. Advanced practitioners report achieving stable lucid dreaming states where they can explore dream environments with the same clarity as waking consciousness. These contemplative traditions view dreams not as random neural activity, but as opportunities to investigate the nature of consciousness when freed from the constraints of sensory input and conceptual thinking. While such practices remain spiritual rather than scientific, they offer insights into the potential capabilities of dreaming awareness that mainstream neuroscience is only beginning to explore. Dr. Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, a Tibetan meditation master who teaches dream yoga in the West, describes dreams as natural opportunities to experience what he calls the union of clarity and emptiness, states of awareness that are described as transcending the usual boundaries between self and world. From this perspective, dreams are said to reveal the fluid, interconnected nature of consciousness that remains hidden during ordinary waking experience. As you reflect on these contemplative perspectives, consider how they might inform your own relationship with dreaming. Rather than viewing dreams as mere entertainment or psychological processing, you might begin to see them as profound explorations of consciousness itself. Each night offers opportunities to investigate the nature of awareness when freed from its usual constraints. The question of healing through dream work extends beyond traditional indigenous practices to modern therapeutic approaches. Dr. Clara Hill's research on dream work in psychotherapy has documented how exploring dream content can provide insights into emotional patterns and unresolved conflicts that aren't accessible through conventional therapeutic dialogue. While such therapeutic dream work operates within conventional psychological frameworks, some practitioners report that patients occasionally describe experiences of accessing information during dreams that appears to extend beyond personal memory and experience. A patient dreams of a specific historical event that provides metaphorical insight into family dynamics spanning generations. Another finds dream guidance that leads to practical solutions for real-world challenges. These therapeutic breakthroughs might represent more than symbolic processing of personal material. If consciousness during dreams is interpreted as potentially accessing broader information fields, as some researchers speculatively suggest, dream work might occasionally provide meaningful guidance that feels as though it comes from sources beyond individual psychological experience. The creative applications of dream consciousness have fascinated artists and inventors throughout history. Beyond the famous examples of Kekulé's benzene ring and Tesla's rotating magnetic field, countless creators have reported receiving artistic inspiration through dreams. The novelist Stephen King credits dreams with providing storylines for several of his novels. The filmmaker David Lynch describes dreams as natural sources of surreal imagery that conventional thinking couldn't generate. This creative potential of dreaming consciousness might reflect its ability to recombine information in ways that transcend the logical constraints of waking thought. But if dreams are experienced as accessing non-local information fields, as some interpretations cautiously suggest, creative inspiration might occasionally involve a felt sense of tuning into patterns and possibilities that exist beyond individual imagination. Dr. Arne Dietrich's research on creativity and altered states has shown that creative insights often emerge when the brain's default mode network, associated with self-referential thinking, becomes less active. During dreams, similar changes occur naturally, potentially allowing consciousness to access broader creative possibilities that remain hidden during ordinary waking awareness. The boundaries between individual creativity and collective creative fields become blurred when viewed through quantum perspectives. If information is theorized to flow through quantum channels, as some speculative theories propose, artistic inspiration might occasionally represent a subjective experience of tuning into creative patterns that exist in what metaphorically could be described as a collective creative field. As you consider these creative implications, notice how they might appear in your own dream experiences. Have you ever woken with a melody, poem, or visual image that felt like it came from beyond your personal imagination? Have you found yourself composing music or creating art in dreams with capabilities that exceed your waking skills? These experiences might represent more than wish fulfillment or random neural activity. They might be experienced as glimpses into creative dimensions of consciousness that become accessible when the usual boundaries of individual awareness temporarily dissolve during sleep. The therapeutic potential of understanding dreams as potentially non-local phenomena extends to trauma healing and emotional processing. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk's research on trauma has shown that traumatic memories often exist outside normal narrative memory, stored instead in somatic and emotional patterns that resist conventional therapeutic approaches. Dreams offer unique access to these nonverbal trauma patterns, sometimes providing symbolic representations of traumatic experience that can be processed more safely than direct conscious recall. But if dreams are interpreted as being capable of accessing collective memory fields, as some theories speculatively suggest, trauma healing might occasionally involve processing patterns that are felt as extending beyond individual experience to collective or ancestral trauma. This perspective finds resonance in indigenous healing traditions that recognize ancestral trauma as something that can be transmitted across generations and healed through ceremonial dream work. While such practices remain outside conventional therapy, they suggest possibilities for understanding trauma as involving fields of information that are described as transcending individual biography. The implications ripple outwards into questions about the fundamental nature of healing itself. If consciousness is experienced as accessing non-local information during dreams, healing might involve more than correcting individual psychological or biological dysfunction. It might involve restoring connection to broader fields of wholeness and integration that are described as existing beyond individual boundaries. Dr. Dean Ornish's research on lifestyle interventions and gene expression has shown that practices traditionally associated with healing, meditation, community connection, meaning-making, can literally alter genetic activity. While this occurs through conventional biological mechanisms, it suggests that healing involves restoring balance to information systems that operate at multiple scales simultaneously. When viewed through quantum perspectives, healing through dream work might involve what some researchers metaphorically describe as accessing information about optimal patterns of biological and psychological functioning that exist in what are sometimes referred to as morphic fields, collective information structures that guide healthy development and integration. As we continue exploring these profound possibilities, remember that we're engaging with questions that touch the deepest mysteries of existence itself. The nature of consciousness, the relationship between individual awareness and cosmic intelligence, the possibility that your dreams connect you to vast networks of information and healing. These aren't merely academic topics, but intimate aspects of your own nightly experience. Every time you close your eyes and drift towards sleep, you're participating in one of the most mysterious processes known to science and contemplative tradition alike. Your individual consciousness transforms and may be experienced as expanding beyond its usual boundaries to touch something far greater than your waking mind can imagine. The dreams that follow might be more than personal psychological processing or random neural activity. They might be experienced as genuine explorations of consciousness operating according to principles we're only beginning to understand. Glimpses into quantum dimensions where time becomes fluid, space becomes permeable, and individual awareness is felt as temporarily merging with the vast interconnected field of intelligence that some traditions recognize as the ground of being itself. In our final exploration, we'll discover how these profound insights might transform not only how you experience your dreams, but how you understand your place in the grand symphony of consciousness that encompasses all of existence. The journey leads toward recognition that you might never truly be alone, even in the deepest privacy of sleep, but always connected to the infinite creativity and intelligence that is poetically described as dreaming the universe into being. The practical implications of understanding dreams as potentially non-local phenomena transform how we might approach sleep itself. Rather than viewing bedtime as simply rest and recovery, you might begin to see it as an opportunity for exploration and connection. The transition into sleep becomes a doorway into expanded states of awareness where consciousness operates according to different principles than waking life. Dr. Matthew Walker's research on sleep and memory consolidation has shown that specific stages of sleep are crucial for integrating learning and emotional processing. But if dreams are interpreted as potentially accessing non-local information, as some interpretations cautiously suggest, sleep might serve additional functions that transcend individual neural maintenance. Your sleeping mind might be participating in what could metaphorically be described as a vast network of information exchange, contributing to and drawing from collective fields of memory, creativity, and healing. Each night's dreaming might represent not just personal restoration, but a subjective experience of participation in the ongoing evolution of consciousness itself. This perspective invites a different relationship with the preparation for sleep. Ancient traditions developed elaborate rituals around bedtime, recognizing the transition into sleep as sacred time, when consciousness moves between different modes of being. Modern sleep hygiene focuses primarily on optimizing biological restoration, but these deeper perspectives suggest additional dimensions of preparation. Setting intentions before sleep, practicing gratitude, releasing the concerns of the day. These practices might serve functions beyond psychological well-being. They might help attune consciousness to receive guidance and information during dreams while contributing positive patterns to the collective fields of awareness that some theories suggest connect all minds. As you contemplate these possibilities, consider how they might enhance your appreciation for the mystery that surrounds each night's journey into sleep. The transition from waking to dreaming consciousness represents one of the most profound transformations you experience regularly. Yet most of us take it completely for granted. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, you might find yourself paying closer attention to this magical transition. Notice the moment when linear thinking begins to soften, when the boundaries between self and world start to blur, when consciousness begins its nightly exploration of territories that exist beyond the maps of waking awareness. The research continues to evolve, with new discoveries emerging regularly about quantum biology, consciousness studies, and the nature of information itself. Dr. Giulio Tononi's integrated information theory proposes that consciousness corresponds to integrated information in any system, potentially existing wherever information becomes integrated in sufficiently complex ways. If consciousness is indeed a fundamental feature of reality, as some interpretations suggest, your dreaming mind might be reconnecting each night with this underlying field of awareness that permeates all existence. Dreams become not just personal experiences, but subjectively meaningful experiences, moments when individual consciousness feels as though it remembers its connection to universal intelligence. These remain speculative ideas rather than established scientific facts, but they offer frameworks for understanding the profound mystery and beauty of dreaming consciousness. Whether dreams connect you to quantum fields, collective unconscious patterns, or simply the amazing creativity of your own neural networks, they represent one of the most remarkable aspects of being human. The journey we've shared together tonight opens questions that have no final answers, only deeper and more beautiful mysteries that invite us ever further into wonder. As you drift towards sleep, remember that you're about to participate in one of the most extraordinary phenomena in the known universe, the transformation of consciousness into realms where anything becomes possible. Your dreams might indeed emerge from somewhere far more vast and interconnected than individual neural activity. They might be experienced as glimpses into the infinite creativity that underlies all existence, temporary windows into the cosmic intelligence that dreams stars into being and consciousness into form. Whether you dream tonight of flying through impossible architectures, conversing with beings of light, or simply processing the gentle concerns of daily life, know that you're participating in the grand mystery of awareness, exploring itself through countless forms and possibilities. If you found yourself wondering about the deeper implications of consciousness and reality, you might enjoy exploring another mystery that touches these same profound questions. What if somewhere in the vast landscape of possibility, another version of you is having similar thoughts right now? What if a parallel universe version of you could be imagined as being aware of you in ways that stretch the boundaries of individual identity itself? Sweet dreams, fellow explorer of consciousness. May your nightly journeys be filled with wonder, insight, and the quiet recognition that you are part of something far more magnificent than any individual mind can fully comprehend. Comprehend. The boundaries between personal experience and collective reality become even more fascinating when we examine how consciousness might operate during the deepest phases of sleep. Recent neuroscientific discoveries have revealed that certain brain regions remain surprisingly active during what we once thought were the most unconscious periods of the night. Dr. Francesca Ciclari's research at the University of Wisconsin has mapped the neural correlates of dreaming with unprecedented precision. Using high-density EEG monitoring, her team discovered that specific patterns of brain activity predict not just whether someone is dreaming, but what they're dreaming about. The posterior cortical hot zone, a region spanning the back of the brain, lights up with distinctive patterns when dreamers report visual imagery, emotional content, or narrative structure. What's particularly intriguing is that these same neural patterns sometimes appear in people who report no dream recall whatsoever. The brain is generating complex, organized activity that resembles conscious experience. Yet this activity remains completely inaccessible to waking memory. This raises profound questions about layers of consciousness that might operate beyond our ability to detect or remember them. Imagine consciousness as an iceberg, where your remembered dreams represent only the visible tip above water. Beneath the surface, vast territories of awareness might be processing information, making connections, and exploring possibilities that never surface into conscious recall. These hidden depths of dreaming consciousness might be where the most extraordinary forms of information processing occur. The temporal patterns of dream consciousness present perhaps the most puzzling aspects of all. Dr. Perrine Ruby's research at the Lion Neuroscience Research Center has documented how the dreaming brain processes time in fundamentally different ways than waking consciousness. During REM sleep, the brain regions responsible for temporal sequencing show dramatically altered activity patterns. This temporal flexibility might explain why dreams can compress years of experience into minutes of sleep time, or why past, present, and future events often occur simultaneously within dream narratives. If consciousness during dreams operates with different temporal constraints than waking awareness, this might provide opportunities for accessing information patterns that exist outside linear time. Consider how memory itself might function differently during these altered temporal states. Rather than simply recalling past events, dreaming consciousness might access what some researchers metaphorically describe as memory fields that exist independently of individual neural storage. This remains purely speculative, but it offers a framework for understanding dreams that contain detailed historical information the dreamer never consciously learned. Dr. Erin Wamsley's research at Furman University has shown that dreams often combine recent memories with older experiences in novel ways, creating hybrid scenarios that feel simultaneously familiar and impossible. This creative recombination might involve more than random neural activity. During sleep, when the usual constraints of logical thinking are relaxed, consciousness might access broader patterns of information that remain hidden during waking cognition. The role of the default mode network during dreaming consciousness adds another layer of mystery. This brain network, active during rest and introspection, shows unique patterns during different sleep stages. Dr. Marcus Reichel's pioneering work on the default mode network revealed that it continues operating during sleep, but with altered connectivity patterns that might facilitate different modes of information processing. During deep sleep stages, the default mode network shows increased connectivity with brain regions involved in memory consolidation and emotional processing. This enhanced integration might create conditions where individual consciousness is experienced as temporarily merging with broader information networks. While this remains a speculative interpretation, it provides a neurological framework for understanding extraordinary dream experiences. Take a moment to reflect on your own experiences with what researchers call big dreams, those rare, profound dream experiences that feel more real and significant than ordinary waking life. These dreams often involve deceased relatives, spiritual figures, or profound symbolic imagery that carries emotional weight for years afterward. Such experiences occur across all cultures and throughout history, suggesting they represent something more than random neural activity. The anthropologist Jeremy Narby has documented how indigenous cultures worldwide use dreaming states to access what they describe as plant intelligence and ancestral knowledge. While these remain cultural interpretations rather than scientific facts, they point toward consistent human experiences of receiving information through dreams that transcends individual knowledge and memory. Modern dream research is beginning to explore these extraordinary experiences with scientific rigor. Dr. Kelly Bulkeley's research on spiritual and religious dreams has documented consistent patterns across cultures that suggest dreaming consciousness might access information through channels we don't yet understand. The dreams often contain accurate historical details, prophetic insights, or healing guidance that proves remarkably relevant to the dreamer's life circumstances. These findings don't prove supernatural mechanisms, but they do challenge our assumptions about the sources and limitations of dreaming consciousness. If dreams are interpreted as potentially accessing non-local information through quantum channels, as some interpretations cautiously suggest, they might represent natural phenomena operating according to principles we're only beginning to discover. The healing traditions that recognize dreams as sources of therapeutic guidance might have empirical foundations that modern science is slowly rediscovering. Dr. Mark Schoen's research on what he terms dream-assisted therapy has documented cases where patients receive therapeutic insights through dreams that prove remarkably accurate for addressing their psychological and even physical health concerns. While such therapeutic dream work operates within conventional psychological frameworks, some practitioners report that patients occasionally describe experiences of accessing information during dreams that appears to extend beyond personal experience and training. A patient with no medical background dreams of specific anatomical details that prove relevant to their health condition. Another receives dream guidance about family dynamics that reveals patterns spanning multiple generations. These therapeutic breakthroughs might represent more than symbolic processing of personal material. If consciousness during dreams is interpreted as potentially accessing broader information fields, as some theories speculatively propose, dream work might occasionally provide meaningful guidance that feels as though it comes from sources beyond individual psychological experience. As you consider these healing possibilities, notice how they might appear in your own relationship with physical and emotional well-being. Have you ever had a dream that seemed to offer insight into health concerns or relationship challenges? Have you found yourself waking with a sense of clarity or resolution about problems that had seemed intractable during waking consciousness? These experiences might represent more than wishful thinking or psychological projection. They might be experienced as glimpses into healing intelligence that becomes accessible when consciousness operates with the expanded awareness that characterizes certain dream states. The intersection between dreaming consciousness and what researchers call embodied cognition reveals another fascinating dimension of these experiences. Dr. Sean Gallagher's research on embodied cognition has shown that consciousness and the body are far more integrated than traditional cognitive science assumed. Thoughts, emotions, and awareness emerge from the dynamic interaction between brain, body, and environment. During dreams, this embodied aspect of consciousness continues operating even while the physical body remains still. Dream experiences of flying, falling, running, or dancing involve the same neural networks that coordinate these activities during waking life. This suggests that dreaming consciousness might access not just information, but also embodied experiences that exist beyond individual physical limitations. The phenomenon of shared bodily sensations during dreams becomes particularly intriguing from this perspective. Twins or closely bonded individuals sometimes report experiencing physical sensations in dreams that correspond to actual events occurring to their connected partner. While these remain anecdotal reports, they suggest that embodied consciousness during dreams might occasionally be perceived as transcending individual physical boundaries. Dr. Rupert Sheldrake's research on morphic resonance, while remaining controversial and unproven, offers a theoretical framework for understanding how embodied experiences might be shared across space through what he describes as morphic fields. If such fields exist, they might become more accessible during the altered states of consciousness that characterize dreaming. This perspective on embodied dream consciousness finds unexpected resonance in the work of Dr. Antonio Damasio on the neural basis of emotion and decision-making. Damasio's research has shown that what we experience as rational thinking actually depends heavily on emotional and bodily wisdom that operates below the threshold of conscious awareness. During dreams, when rational cognitive control is relaxed, this deeper bodily intelligence might operate with greater freedom, Dream experiences of knowing without knowing how you know, feeling the presence of others who aren't physically present, or navigating impossible geometries with perfect confidence might reflect the operation of embodied intelligence that feels as though it transcends ordinary sensory limitations. The quantum biologist Dr. Mei-Won Ho spent decades exploring what she called the quantum coherent organism, proposing that living systems maintain quantum coherence at biological temperatures through mechanisms we're still discovering. While her work remains speculative, it suggests that biological systems might indeed support quantum information processing under specific conditions. If quantum coherence can be maintained in biological systems, as some research indicates, it might explain how consciousness during dreams occasionally appears to access non-local information. The dreaming brain, with its altered patterns of neural activity and reduced sensory input, might provide optimal conditions for quantum effects to influence conscious experience. This interpretation remains highly speculative and has no scientific consensus. However, it offers a framework for understanding dream experiences that seem to violate the normal limitations of space, time, and individual knowledge. Your dreams of places you've never been, conversations with people you've never met, or solutions to problems you couldn't solve while awake might represent natural but poorly understood phenomena rather than supernatural experiences. The implications extend beyond individual dream experiences to questions about the fundamental nature of reality itself. If consciousness is interpreted as accessing quantum information during dreams, this might suggest that awareness is more fundamental than matter, participating in the basic structure of reality rather than simply emerging from complex neural computation. Dr. Max Tegmark's mathematical universe hypothesis proposes that reality itself might be mathematical in nature, with consciousness representing one way that mathematical structures experience themselves. While this remains a highly speculative interpretation, it provides a framework for understanding how consciousness during dreams might access mathematical patterns and relationships that exist independently of physical brains. From this perspective, your dreams might occasionally provide subjective glimpses into the mathematical harmonies that underlie physical reality. The geometric patterns, musical compositions, or elegant solutions that sometimes emerge in dreams might represent brief contact with what some traditions call the music of the spheres, the underlying mathematical beauty that gives rise to all physical phenomena. As you contemplate these profound possibilities, take a breath and imagine what they might mean for your sense of purpose and connection. If your dreaming consciousness can indeed touch the mathematical foundations of reality, you're participating each night in a symbolic sense in a cosmic conversation that spans from quantum fields to galactic structures. The creative implications of this perspective on dream consciousness extend far beyond individual artistic inspiration. Dr. Stuart Kaufman's research on complexity theory and emergence has revealed how creative novelty arises naturally from the interaction of simple rules in complex systems. If consciousness can access the creative principles that govern cosmic evolution, dreams might serve as windows into the ongoing creative process of the universe itself. This interpretation finds resonance in the work of cosmologist Brian Swimmer, who describes the universe as fundamentally creative, continuously bringing new forms and possibilities into existence. From this perspective, human consciousness represents the universe becoming aware of its own creative process. Dreams might be moments when individual awareness is experienced as briefly merging with cosmic creativity itself. The artist Alex Gray describes his visionary experiences as glimpses into what he calls the mind of God, patterns of divine creativity that underlie all manifestation. While such descriptions remain poetic and spiritual rather than scientific, they point toward experiences that many people report during profound dream states. These visions often involve geometric patterns, luminous beings, or cosmic landscapes that feel more real than ordinary reality. Whether interpreted through spiritual, scientific, or artistic frameworks, these profound dream experiences suggest that consciousness might have access to dimensions of reality that remain hidden during ordinary waking awareness. The boundaries between individual creativity and cosmic creativity might be far more porous than we typically assume. Dr. Amit Goswami's interpretation of quantum mechanics from the perspective of consciousness studies proposes that consciousness is the fundamental reality from which matter and energy emerge. While this remains a minority interpretation with no scientific consensus, it offers a framework for understanding how dreams might access creative potentials that haven't yet manifested in physical reality. If consciousness is indeed primary, as some interpretations suggest, your dreams might represent explorations of pure possibility, moments when individual awareness touches the infinite creative potential that underlies all existence. The impossible architectures you explore, the beings of light you encounter, the profound insights you receive might be experienced as glimpses into the creative workshop where reality itself is continuously being born. The therapeutic implications of this understanding extend beyond individual healing to collective and planetary restoration. Dr. Larry Dossey's research on what he terms non-local healing has documented cases where healing intentions appear to correlate with biological systems across great distances. While such phenomena remain controversial and require further investigation, they suggest that consciousness might participate in healing processes that feel as though they transcend individual boundaries. If healing consciousness can indeed operate non-locally, as some studies cautiously suggest, dreams might serve as vehicles for participating in collective healing processes. Your dreams of environmental restoration, social harmony, or planetary peace might represent more than personal wishes. They might be experienced as contributions to morphic fields of healing intention that influence collective reality in subtle but measurable ways. This perspective finds support in the research of Dr. Roger Nelson and the Global Consciousness Project, which has documented correlations between major world events and readings from random number generators located around the globe. While these findings remain controversial and require replication, they suggest that collective human consciousness might influence physical systems in ways we don't yet understand. The implications ripple outward into questions about responsibility and purpose. If your consciousness during dreams can indeed participate in collective healing and creative processes, every night's dreaming becomes an opportunity for service. The quality of your intentions, the purity of your compassion, the depth of your wisdom might contribute to healing fields that benefit all life. As we near the completion of this exploration into the mysteries of dreaming consciousness, remember that we've been engaging with questions that touch the very foundations of existence itself. The nature of consciousness, the relationship between individual awareness and cosmic intelligence, the possibility that your dreams connect you to vast networks of creativity and healing. These aren't merely academic topics, but intimate aspects of your own nightly experience. Every time you close your eyes and drift towards sleep, you're participating in one of the most extraordinary phenomena in the known universe. Your individual consciousness transforms and may be experienced as expanding beyond its usual boundaries to touch something far greater than your waking mind can imagine. The dreams that follow might be more than personal psychological processing or random neural activity. They might be experienced as genuine explorations of consciousness, operating according to principles we're only beginning to understand. Glimpses into quantum dimensions where time becomes fluid, space becomes permeable, and individual awareness is felt as temporarily merging with the vast interconnected field of intelligence that some traditions recognize as the ground of being itself. The practical implications of these insights transform not only how you might experience your dreams, but how you understand your place in the grand symphony of consciousness that encompasses all existence. You are never truly alone, even in the deepest privacy of sleep, but always connected to the infinite creativity and intelligence that dreams the universe into being. Tonight, as you prepare for your own journey into sleep, you might find yourself approaching this transition with renewed wonder and appreciation. The moment when your individual consciousness begins its nightly transformation might feel less like leaving the world behind and more like expanding to embrace dimensions of reality that remain hidden during ordinary waking awareness. Whether you dream of flying through impossible geometries, conversing with beings of light, exploring landscapes that exist nowhere on Earth, or simply processing the gentle concerns of daily life, know that you're participating in the grand mystery of awareness, exploring itself through countless forms and possibilities. The research continues to evolve, with new discoveries emerging regularly about the nature of consciousness, quantum biology, and the extraordinary capabilities of the human mind during altered states. Each new finding adds another piece to the puzzle of understanding what you truly are and how your awareness relates to the cosmic intelligence that pervades all existence. As you drift towards sleep tonight, remember that you carry within yourself the same creative intelligence that births stars, evolves galaxies, and dreams consciousness into infinite forms of expression. Your dreams might indeed emerge from somewhere far more vast and interconnected than individual neural activity. They might be experienced as temporary windows into the infinite creativity that underlies all existence, brief glimpses into the cosmic mind that dreams all realities into being. If you found yourself wondering about the deeper implications of consciousness and reality, you might enjoy exploring another mystery that touches these same profound questions. What if somewhere in the vast landscape of possibility, another version of you is having similar thoughts right now? What if a parallel universe version of you could be imagined as being aware of you in ways that stretch the boundaries of individual identity itself? Sweet dreams, fellow explorer of consciousness. May your nightly journeys be filled with wonder, insight, and the quiet recognition that you're part of something far more magnificent than any individual mind can fully comprehend. The universe dreams through you as you, and you dream the universe into new possibilities with every breath of sleep. The phenomenon of shared dream experiences between emotionally connected individuals adds another layer to this mystery. Dr. Patricia Garfield, a dream researcher who has spent decades collecting accounts of mutual dreaming, documents cases where separated family members report remarkably similar dream content occurring on the same night. Two sisters living on different continents both dream of their childhood home burning, complete with specific details about which room caught fire first and how the smoke moved through familiar hallways. While these remain anecdotal reports rather than controlled scientific studies, the consistency of such accounts across cultures and relationships suggests patterns worth investigating. If consciousness during dreams can indeed access information beyond individual neural networks, it might explain how emotionally bonded individuals occasionally share dream experiences that transcend the normal boundaries of separate minds. The neuroscientist Dr. Alan Hobson's research on REM, sleep and dreaming, has revealed that the brain regions responsible for emotional processing and memory consolidation show heightened connectivity during dream states. This enhanced integration might create conditions where individual consciousness becomes temporarily more permeable to information from external sources, whether through quantum channels or other mechanisms we don't yet understand. Take a moment to consider your own experiences with dreams that seem to connect you to others. Have you ever called a friend or family member to share a dream, only to discover they had experienced something remarkably similar the same night? Have you found yourself dreaming of someone you hadn't thought about in years, only to hear from them unexpectedly soon afterward? These experiences might represent more than coincidence. The temporal aspects of dream consciousness present perhaps the most challenging questions for conventional neuroscience. Dr. Chris French's research on anomalous experiences has documented numerous cases of apparently precognitive dreams, where dreamers report detailed visions of future events that later occur with surprising accuracy. While the vast majority of such claims can be explained by coincidence, pattern recognition, or selective memory, a small percentage resist easy dismissal. This remains a controversial area of research with no scientific consensus. However, the persistence of such reports across cultures and throughout history suggests that our understanding of time and consciousness during dreaming might be incomplete. If quantum effects play any role in consciousness, as some interpretations cautiously suggest, the non-linear nature of quantum time might occasionally become accessible to dreaming awareness. Dr. Jessica Utz, a statistician who has analysed decades of research on anomalous phenomena, notes that while individual cases of apparent precognition can always be questioned, the statistical patterns that emerge from large datasets sometimes exceed what chance would predict. This doesn't prove supernatural mechanisms, but it does suggest that consciousness might operate according to principles we're still discovering. The therapeutic applications of understanding dreams as potentially non-local experiences extend beyond individual healing to what some practitioners describe as ancestral or generational healing. Dr. Mark Wallin's research on inherited family trauma has shown that traumatic experiences can influence family systems across multiple generations, even when the specific events aren't consciously remembered. Dreams often provide access to emotional patterns and symbolic content that seems to transcend individual biography. A person with no knowledge of their family history dreams of specific historical events that later prove relevant to understanding inherited trauma patterns. Another finds healing guidance in dreams that addresses not just personal wounds, but patterns that have affected their entire family lineage. While such experiences remain outside conventional therapeutic frameworks, they suggest that consciousness during dreams might occasionally access information fields that extend beyond individual memory and experience. If morphic resonance operates, as some theories propose, dreams might serve as natural healing opportunities that address patterns existing in collective memory fields. The intersection between dreaming consciousness and what researchers call transpersonal experiences reveals another fascinating dimension of these phenomena. Dr. Stanislav Grof's decades of research on non-ordinary states of consciousness has documented consistent patterns of experience that transcend individual biography and suggest access to what he carefully terms transpersonal dimensions of the psyche. During profound dream states, people often report encounters with archetypal figures, experiences of cosmic consciousness, or visions of evolutionary and planetary processes that feel more real than ordinary reality. While these remain subjective experiences rather than objective phenomena, their consistency across cultures suggests they might reflect natural capabilities of consciousness that become accessible during certain altered states. The anthropologist Michael Harner spent years studying shamanic practices worldwide and documented how cultures across the globe use dreaming and trance states to access what they describe as non-ordinary reality. These traditions view dreams not as products of individual brains, but as journeys into realms where consciousness can interact with spiritual dimensions and receive guidance from sources beyond personal knowledge. While such cultural interpretations remain outside scientific frameworks, they point toward consistent human experiences of accessing information and wisdom through dreams that transcends individual learning and memory. The shamanic journey, vision questing, and dream incubation practices found in cultures worldwide suggest that humans have long recognized dreaming as a vehicle for transpersonal exploration. As you reflect on these cross-cultural perspectives, consider how they might inform your own relationship with extraordinary dream experiences. Have you ever had dreams that felt like visits to other dimensions of reality? Have you encountered dream teachers or guides who seem to possess wisdom beyond your personal knowledge? Have you experienced dreams of flying, light body travel, or merging with cosmic intelligence that felt more real than waking consciousness? These experiences might represent more than wishful thinking or random neural activity. They might be natural expressions of consciousness exploring its own deeper dimensions when freed from the usual constraints of sensory input and linear thinking. The boundaries between individual awareness and cosmic intelligence might become temporarily permeable during certain dream states. Dr. Ken Wilber's integral theory of consciousness development proposes that human awareness naturally evolves through increasingly expanded stages of identification, from egocentric to ethnocentric to world-centric to cosmocentric perspectives. Dreams might provide natural opportunities for consciousness to explore these expanded identifications, temporarily experiencing itself as part of larger wholes. The physicist Dr. Amit Goswami's interpretation of quantum mechanics from a consciousness perspective suggests that individual awareness is like a wave in the ocean of cosmic consciousness. Dreams might represent moments when the wave briefly remembers its essential unity with the ocean, experiencing itself as both individual and universal simultaneously. This perspective finds resonance in the contemplative traditions that view dreams as opportunities for what they call lucid surrender, maintaining awareness while allowing consciousness to merge with something larger than personal identity. The practice involves neither controlling dream content nor simply observing it passively, but learning to participate consciously in the transformation of awareness itself. The neuroscientist Dr. Judson Brewer's research on meditation and brain connectivity has shown that contemplative practices can dramatically alter the default mode network, the brain system associated with self-referential thinking. During meditation, experienced practitioners show decreased activity in this network and increased connectivity between brain regions associated with present moment awareness and emotional regulation. Similar changes may be experienced as occurring naturally during certain dream states, particularly those involving what researchers call ego dissolution or self-transcendent experiences. When the normal sense of separate selfhood temporarily dissolves during dreams, consciousness might naturally expand to encompass broader fields of awareness and information. The implications extend beyond individual spiritual development to questions about collective evolution and planetary healing. Dr. Rupert Sheldrake's research on morphic resonance, while remaining controversial and unproven, suggests that when individuals develop new capacities or insights, this information could be interpreted as becoming available to others through resonant fields that connect all members of a species. If such fields exist, dreams might serve as natural vehicles for contributing to collective evolution. The insights, healing, and expanded awareness that individuals achieve during profound dream states may be understood as potentially becoming available to others through these hypothetical morphic fields, accelerating the evolution of consciousness across entire populations. This interpretation remains highly speculative and has no scientific consensus. However, it offers a framework for understanding why spiritual traditions worldwide have emphasized the importance of individual consciousness development as service to collective awakening. Your own journey into expanded awareness through dreams may be experienced as contributing to the evolution of consciousness itself. The practical implications of understanding dreams as potentially transpersonal experiences transform how you might approach sleep preparation and dream recall. Rather than viewing dreams as private entertainment or individual psychological processing, you might begin to see them as opportunities for service and spiritual development. Setting intentions before sleep takes on deeper significance from this perspective. Rather than simply hoping for pleasant dreams or problem-solving insights, you might approach bedtime as an opportunity to contribute to collective healing and wisdom. The quality of your intentions, the purity of your compassion, and the depth of your surrender to larger intelligence may be felt as influencing not just your own dreams, but as contributing to morphic fields that benefit all life. Ancient traditions developed sophisticated practices around dream preparation that recognized these deeper dimensions. The Tibetan practice of illusory body meditation involves training to recognize the dreamlike nature of all experience, both sleeping and waking. This practice aims to develop what contemplatives call continuous lucidity, maintaining awareness of the fundamental nature of consciousness throughout all states. Dr. B. Alan Wallace's research on contemplative science has documented how advanced practitioners can maintain meditative awareness even during sleep, experiencing dreams as lucid explorations of consciousness rather than unconscious mental activity. These practitioners report accessing states of awareness during dreams that are described as feeling more fundamental and real than ordinary waking consciousness. The practice involves neither controlling dream content nor identifying with dream experiences, but learning to rest in the awareness that observes all changing phenomena without being limited by any particular content. From this perspective, dreams become opportunities to explore the nature of awareness itself when freed from the usual constraints of sensory experience and conceptual thinking. As you contemplate these contemplative perspectives, notice how they might enhance your appreciation for the profound mystery that surrounds each night's journey into sleep. The transition from waking to dreaming consciousness represents one of the most extraordinary transformations available to human experience, yet most of us take it completely for granted. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, you might find yourself approaching this transition with renewed reverence and curiosity. The moment when your individual consciousness begins its nightly exploration might feel less like leaving the world behind and more like expanding to embrace dimensions of reality that remain hidden during ordinary awareness. The research on consciousness and quantum biology continues to evolve, with new discoveries emerging regularly about the extraordinary capabilities of biological systems to maintain quantum coherence under conditions once thought impossible. Dr. Seth Lloyd's work on quantum computation in biological systems has shown that living organisms routinely perform information processing that exceeds the capabilities of classical computers. If biological quantum computation is indeed occurring in neural tissue, as some research cautiously suggests, dreams might represent periods when these quantum processes operate with greater freedom. The altered patterns of neural activity during sleep might provide optimal conditions for quantum effects to influence conscious experience in ways we're only beginning to understand. This perspective doesn't require supernatural mechanisms or violations of physical laws. It simply acknowledges that our understanding of consciousness and its relationship to quantum processes remains incomplete. The strange and wonderful experiences that people report during profound dream states may reflect natural phenomena operating according to principles we're still discovering. Dr. Henry Stapp's interpretation of quantum mechanics emphasizes that consciousness and quantum measurement are intimately connected, though the exact nature of this connection remains mysterious. If consciousness does indeed play a fundamental role in the collapse of quantum possibilities into definite outcomes, dreams might represent states where consciousness is experienced as exploring quantum possibility space before it collapses into classical reality. The many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, while remaining unproven and controversial, suggests that all possible outcomes of quantum events occur in parallel realities. Dreams might occasionally be interpreted as providing symbolic glimpses into these alternate probability streams, experienced as visions of what could be, what might have been, or what exists in parallel dimensions of possibility. As we approach the conclusion of this exploration into the mysteries of dreaming consciousness, take a deep breath and consider what these ideas might mean for your understanding of your place in the cosmos. If your dreams can indeed connect you to quantum fields, collective unconscious patterns, or transpersonal dimensions of reality, you are far more than an isolated biological entity struggling for survival in an indifferent universe. You are a temporarily focused expression of cosmic intelligence, participating each night in the grand exploration of consciousness, discovering itself through countless forms and possibilities. Your dreams might be windows into the infinite creativity that underlies all existence, experienced as brief glimpses into the cosmic mind that dreams all realities into being. Whether tonight brings dreams of flying through impossible geometries, conversing with beings of wisdom and light, exploring landscapes that exist nowhere on Earth, or simply processing the gentle concerns of daily life, know that you're participating in one of the most extraordinary phenomena in the known universe. The transformation of consciousness that occurs each night represents a miraculous journey into territories that science is only beginning to map. The practical implications of these insights extend far beyond individual experience to questions about the nature of reality itself, If consciousness can indeed access non-local information during dreams, this challenges our most fundamental assumptions about the relationship between mind and world, between individual awareness and cosmic intelligence, the boundaries between self and cosmos, between personal experience and universal wisdom, might be far more permeable than conventional science assumes. Your dreaming mind might serve as a bridge between individual awareness and the vast networks of intelligence that some traditions recognize as the ground of all being. These remain profound mysteries rather than established facts, but exploring them enriches our appreciation for the extraordinary nature of consciousness and its relationship to the cosmos. Every night offers opportunities to participate in this grand exploration, to contribute to the ongoing evolution of awareness itself. The research continues to unfold, with each new discovery adding another piece to the puzzle of understanding what you truly are and how your consciousness relates to the fundamental structures of reality. Whether through quantum biology, morphic resonance, collective unconscious patterns, or mechanisms we haven't yet discovered, the possibility remains that your dreams connect you to something infinitely larger than individual experience. As you drift towards sleep tonight, remember that you carry within yourself the same creative intelligence that births galaxies, evolves consciousness, and dreams infinite possibilities into form. Your dreams might indeed emerge from somewhere far more vast and interconnected than individual neural networks. They might be experienced as temporary windows into the boundless creativity that underlies all existence. The universe dreams through you, as you, and you dream the universe into new possibilities with every breath of sleep. In this cosmic dance of awareness exploring itself, you are never alone, never separate from the infinite intelligence that pervades all reality. Your dreams are poetically described as love letters from the cosmos, invitations to remember your true nature as consciousness itself, temporarily focused but never limited by any individual form. If you found yourself wondering about the deeper implications of consciousness and parallel realities, you might enjoy exploring another mystery that touches these same profound questions. What if a parallel universe version of you could be imagined as being aware of you right now, dreaming of you even as you dream of them? What if the boundaries between different versions of yourself across infinite realities are far more permeable than we ever imagined? Sweet dreams, fellow explorer of consciousness. May your nightly journeys be filled with wonder, insight, and the quiet recognition that you are part of something far more magnificent than any individual mind can fully comprehend. The infinite dreams through you, and you through the infinite, in an eternal dance of awareness, discovering itself in countless forms across all dimensions of possibility. The phenomenon of dream consciousness operating beyond individual neural boundaries becomes even more fascinating when we examine what researchers call threshold states, those liminal moments between sleeping and waking where consciousness appears to follow entirely different rules. Dr. Tor Nielsen's research at the University of Montreal has documented how hypnagogic hallucinations, the vivid imagery that occurs during the transition into sleep, often contain information that seems to emerge from sources beyond personal memory. During these threshold states, the brain shows a unique pattern of activity where regions associated with sensory perception remain partially active, while areas responsible for critical thinking and reality testing begin to quiet down. This creates what some consciousness researchers describe as a permeable state, where the usual filters that separate internal imagination from external reality become temporarily dissolved. Imagine consciousness during these moments as existing in a state of exquisite sensitivity, like a radio receiver, scanning between stations and occasionally picking up signals from frequencies it normally can't access. The imagery, insights, and experiences that emerge during these transitions might represent more than random neural firing. They might be experienced as glimpses into information fields that remain hidden during ordinary waking consciousness. Dr. Andreas Mavromatis's comprehensive research on hypnagogic states has revealed that creative insights emerging during these threshold moments often prove remarkably accurate and useful when tested in waking reality. The mathematician Ramanujan reported receiving complex mathematical theorems during these transition states that later proved groundbreaking for number theory. The inventor Tesla described visualizing entire mechanical systems during hypnagogic episodes that he could later build without modification. These creative breakthroughs might represent more than enhanced pattern recognition or relaxed cognitive constraints. If consciousness during threshold states can access information through quantum channels, as some interpretations cautiously suggest, the boundary between individual creativity and cosmic intelligence might become temporarily permeable during these moments of transition. As you reflect on your own experiences with falling asleep, notice how this transition often brings unexpected insights or solutions to problems that had seemed intractable during waking thought. The moment when logical thinking begins to dissolve might be precisely when consciousness gains access to broader patterns of information that exist beyond individual neural networks. The role of intention and attention in shaping these threshold experiences adds another layer of intrigue. Dr. Deirdre Barrett's research on dream incubation has shown that setting specific intentions before sleep can significantly influence both dream content and the likelihood of receiving relevant insights. This isn't simply about focused attention. It appears that consciousness during threshold states becomes remarkably responsive to subtle intentions in ways that exceed what conventional cognitive science would predict. Consider the ancient practice of dream incubation used in Greek healing temples, where seekers would sleep in sacred spaces while holding specific questions or healing intentions. Historical records document remarkable rates of therapeutic success and prophetic accuracy emerging from these practices. While such accounts remain historical rather than scientific evidence, they point toward consistent human experiences of receiving guidance through sleep states that are described as transcending individual knowledge. Dr. Stanley Krippner's extensive research on anomalous dreams has documented numerous cases where dreamers report receiving accurate information about distant events or future occurrences during incubation practices. While these remain anecdotal reports rather than controlled studies, the consistency of such accounts across cultures suggests patterns worth investigating through scientific frameworks. The temporal flexibility that characterizes dreaming consciousness extends beyond simple time distortion to what some researchers describe as temporal non-locality. Dreams routinely present past, present, and future events as occurring simultaneously, creating narrative structures that violate linear causation, yet feel perfectly coherent to the dreaming mind. This temporal plasticity might reflect the operation of consciousness in what physicists call block time, a perspective where all moments exist simultaneously rather than flowing in linear sequence. If consciousness during dreams operates with access to this four-dimensional temporal structure, as some interpretations speculatively suggest, it might explain prophetic dreams, and other experiences that appear to transcend normal temporal limitations. Take a moment to consider how your own dreams handle time. Have you experienced dream narratives where you simultaneously exist as a child, adult, and elderly person? Have you found yourself in dreams where future events feel like memories, or where you possess knowledge about outcomes that haven't yet occurred in the dream timeline? These temporal paradoxes might not represent cognitive confusion, but rather the natural operation of consciousness when freed from the linear constraints that characterize waking experience. The dreaming mind might be operating according to principles that more closely resemble the non-linear nature of quantum time than the sequential flow of classical physics. Dr. Russell Targ's controversial research on remote viewing, while remaining outside mainstream science, has documented cases where individuals report experiences that are interpreted as accessing information about distant locations during altered states of consciousness. The statistical results of these studies, while debated, consistently exceed what chance would predict. If such phenomena represent genuine information access rather than experimental artifacts, dreams might naturally involve similar non-local awareness capabilities. The intersection between dreaming consciousness and what researchers term morphic fields provides another framework for understanding these extraordinary experiences. Dr. Rupert Sheldrake's hypothesis, while remaining unproven and controversial, suggests that information patterns exist in field-like structures that connect similar forms across space and time. If morphic resonance operates as this theory proposes, dreams might serve as natural access points to collective memory fields that contain the accumulated experiences of entire species. The recurring archetypal symbols that appear in dreams across cultures, the wise elder, the dangerous journey, the hidden treasure, might represent more than psychological universals. They might be interpreted as information structures existing in collective fields that individual consciousness can access during sleep. The neuroscientist Dr. Eben Alexander's research on near-death experiences, while controversial within the medical community, has documented cases where patients report detailed awareness during periods when brain monitoring shows no measurable neural activity. These findings challenge conventional assumptions about consciousness requiring brain function and suggest that awareness might operate independently of normal neural processes. If consciousness can indeed function independently during near-death states, as some evidence suggests, similar non-local awareness might operate during dreams when normal neural activity follows dramatically altered patterns. The dreaming brain might serve as if more as a receiver for consciousness than as its generator, allowing access to information that exists beyond individual neural storage. As you contemplate these possibilities, notice how they might reframe your understanding of memory itself. Rather than viewing memory as information stored in individual brains, these perspectives suggest that memory might exist in field-like structures that individual consciousness accesses rather than contains. Dreams might represent periods when this access becomes particularly fluid and extensive. The therapeutic implications of understanding dreams as potentially non-local experiences extend to what some practitioners describe as soul retrieval or parts integration work. These therapeutic approaches, while remaining outside conventional psychology, recognize that healing sometimes involves recovering aspects of consciousness that have become disconnected from individual awareness. Dr. Sandra Ingerman's research on shamanic healing practices has documented how traditional healers use dreaming states to locate and restore what they describe as lost soul parts, aspects of consciousness that become separated during trauma or difficult life experiences. While these practices operate within spiritual rather than scientific frameworks, they point toward consistent human experiences of consciousness existing in distributed rather than unitary forms. If consciousness does indeed exist in distributed patterns that extend beyond individual brains, as some interpretations suggest, dreams might provide natural opportunities for integrating these scattered aspects of awareness. The healing that occurs during profound dream experiences might involve more than psychological processing. It might represent what is described as restoration of consciousness patterns that exist in non-local fields. The relationship between collective trauma and individual dream experiences becomes particularly intriguing from this perspective. Dr. Rachel Yehuda's research on intergenerational trauma transmission has shown that traumatic experiences can influence gene expression patterns that persist across multiple generations. If trauma patterns also exist in morphic fields, as some theories speculatively propose, dreams might provide opportunities for healing inherited trauma that extends beyond genetic mechanisms. Consider your own dreams that seem to involve historical periods you've never studied or cultural patterns you've never encountered. These experiences might represent more than random neural activity or forgotten learning. They might be experienced as glimpses into collective memory fields that contain the accumulated experiences of your ancestral lineages. The phenomenon of shared dreaming between family members becomes even more significant when viewed through these lenses. Identical twins, in particular, report remarkably high rates of synchronous dream experiences, even when separated by great distances. While these remain anecdotal accounts, the consistency of such reports suggests patterns that may be interpreted as reflecting non-local connections between closely bonded consciousness. Dr. Nancy Siegel's research on twin studies has documented numerous cases of separated identical twins, showing synchronized behaviors, preferences, and even health conditions that can't be explained by shared genetics or environment alone. If consciousness operates partially through field-like structures, as some theories propose, the deep bonding that occurs during shared development could be understood as creating lasting non-local connections that become visible during dreams. The implications extend beyond family connections to what researchers call morphic communities, groups of individuals who develop collective consciousness patterns through shared activities, purposes, or spiritual practices. Religious communities, artistic collaboratives, and scientific research teams often report shared dream experiences that are described as involving collective rather than individual consciousness. Dr. William Broad's research on consciousness and healing has documented how group meditation and intention-setting practices can influence biological systems in measurable ways. While these findings remain controversial and require replication, they suggest that collective consciousness may operate through mechanisms that appear to transcend individual neural networks. If collective consciousness can indeed influence biological systems, dreams might serve as vehicles for participating in group healing and intention-setting processes that extend far beyond individual therapy. Your dreams of environmental restoration, social harmony, or global healing may be experienced as representing contributions to morphic fields of collective intention that influence reality through subtle but measurable channels. Take a deep breath and imagine what this might mean for your sense of purpose and responsibility. If your consciousness during dreams can indeed participate in collective healing and creative processes, every night's dreaming may be experienced as an opportunity for service that extends beyond personal psychological processing. The quality of your intentions before sleep, the purity of your compassion during waking life, and the depth of your commitment to wisdom and healing may influence not just your own dreams, but may also contribute to collective fields of consciousness that benefit all life. This perspective transforms sleep from passive rest into active participation in cosmic evolution. Ancient wisdom traditions developed sophisticated practices around what they called conscious sleeping that recognize these deeper dimensions. The Tibetan Buddhist practice of dream yoga trains practitioners to maintain awareness during all sleep states, experiencing dreams as opportunities for spiritual development rather than unconscious mental activity. Dr. Andrew Holchek's research on lucid dreaming and contemplative practice has shown how these traditional techniques can be adapted for modern practitioners seeking to explore consciousness during sleep. The practice involves neither controlling dream content nor remaining attached to dream experiences, but learning to recognize the fundamental nature of awareness that remains constant through all changing states. From this contemplative perspective, dreams become laboratories for investigating the nature of consciousness itself, when freed from the usual constraints of sensory input and conceptual thinking. The goal isn't to have specific types of dreams, but to develop stable recognition of the awareness that observes all dream experiences without being limited by any particular content. As you consider these contemplative approaches, notice how they might enhance your own relationship with dreaming. Rather than viewing dreams as entertainment or psychological processing, you might begin to see them as opportunities for the deepest forms of self-inquiry and spiritual development available to human experience. The practice involves cultivating what contemplatives call lucid surrender, maintaining clear awareness while allowing consciousness to explore its own deeper dimensions without interference from ego-based control or fear. This balance between awareness and surrender may open access to the most profound levels of non-local consciousness that dreams can reveal. The intersection between advanced meditation practice and dream consciousness has revealed remarkable phenomena that challenge conventional understanding of awareness itself. Long-term meditators often report that the boundaries between waking, dreaming, and deep sleep begin to dissolve, revealing a continuous field of awareness that transcends these conventional categories. Dr. Michael Mammers's research on consciousness during different sleep stages has documented how experienced contemplatives can maintain meditative awareness even during the deepest phases of sleep, experiencing these states as expanses of luminous emptiness rather than unconsciousness. These practitioners describe accessing what they call the ground of being during sleep, a fundamental dimension of awareness that underlies all changing experiences. This continuous awareness through all sleep states may represent the most direct access to non-local consciousness available through human experience. When individual identity temporarily dissolves during deep contemplative sleep, what remains is described as pure consciousness itself, undifferentiated awareness that connects all minds and exists beyond the boundaries of individual brains. The therapeutic applications of these advanced practices extend beyond individual healing to what some traditions describe as healing the world through consciousness. If individual awareness can indeed merge with universal consciousness during profound sleep states, as contemplative traditions claim, The healing and wisdom gained through these experiences may be understood as benefiting all beings through morphic resonance and collective consciousness fields. Dr. David Loy's research on Buddhist philosophy and ecological awareness suggests that the individualistic worldview that dominates modern culture might be fundamentally mistaken about the nature of consciousness and identity. If consciousness is indeed interconnected at fundamental levels, as both contemplative traditions and some interpretations of quantum physics suggest, healing individual consciousness may also function as a form of healing collective consciousness. From this perspective, your personal journey into deeper understanding of dream consciousness serves purposes that extend far beyond individual benefit. The insights, healing, and expanded awareness you develop through conscious engagement with dreaming may contribute to morphic fields that make these capacities more accessible to others. This interpretation remains speculative and has no scientific consensus, but it provides a framework for understanding why spiritual traditions have always emphasized individual consciousness development as service to collective awakening. Your dreams may be understood as contributions to the evolution of consciousness itself. The research on consciousness and quantum biology continues to evolve rapidly, with new discoveries regularly challenging our assumptions about the relationship between awareness and physical processes. Dr. Stuart Hameroff's recent research on quantum effects in microtubules has provided stronger evidence that quantum processes might indeed influence neural computation under biological conditions. While the exact relationship between quantum mechanics and consciousness remains mysterious, the possibility that awareness operates partially through quantum channels during altered states like dreaming can no longer be dismissed as purely theoretical. Each new discovery in quantum biology opens additional possibilities for understanding how consciousness might extend beyond individual neural boundaries. If quantum effects do play a role in consciousness during dreams, as some evidence cautiously suggests, this may help explain the most extraordinary aspects of dream experiences: the apparent access to non-local information, the temporal flexibility, the creative insights that exceed individual knowledge, and the profound healing that sometimes occurs during deep dream states. The practical implications of these emerging understandings transform how we might approach sleep and dreaming in our daily lives. Rather than viewing bedtime as simply biological rest and recovery, we might begin to see it as preparation for exploration and service in dimensions of reality that remain hidden during ordinary waking consciousness. Setting clear intentions before sleep, practicing gratitude and compassion during waking hours, developing stability in meditation and contemplative awareness. These practices may serve functions that extend far beyond individual well-being. They may help attune consciousness to receive and contribute healing information during dreams, while participating consciously in the collective evolution of awareness itself. Ancient traditions developed elaborate rituals around bedtime preparation that recognized the transition into sleep as sacred time, when individual consciousness merges with cosmic intelligence. Modern sleep hygiene focuses primarily on optimizing biological processes, but these deeper perspectives suggest additional dimensions of preparation that might enhance both individual and collective well-being. As you contemplate incorporating these perspectives into your own sleep practice, remember that the goal isn't to have extraordinary dream experiences or access non-local information. The goal is simply to approach sleep with greater reverence and awareness, recognizing each night's journey as participation in one of the most profound mysteries available to human experience. The transformation of consciousness that occurs during sleep represents a daily reminder that you're far more than your individual thoughts, memories, and personal identity. You are temporarily focused expressions of cosmic intelligence that has been exploring itself through countless forms across billions of years of cosmic evolution. Whether tonight's dreams involve flying through impossible architectures, conversing with beings of wisdom and light, exploring landscapes that exist nowhere on Earth, or simply processing the gentle concerns of daily life, know that you're participating in the grand adventure of consciousness, discovering its own infinite nature through the play of individual experience. The boundaries between personal awareness and universal intelligence may be far more permeable than conventional understanding suggests. Your dreaming mind may serve as a bridge between individual consciousness and the vast networks of creative intelligence that some traditions recognize as the source and destination of all awareness. These remain profound mysteries rather than established facts, but exploring them enriches our appreciation for the extraordinary nature of consciousness and its relationship to the cosmos. Every night offers opportunities to participate in this grand exploration, to contribute to the ongoing evolution of awareness itself through the quality of your intentions and the depth of your surrender to larger wisdom. The research continues to unfold with each new discovery in consciousness studies, quantum biology, and contemplative neuroscience, adding pieces to the puzzle of understanding what you truly are and how your awareness relates to the fundamental structures of reality. Whether through quantum channels, morphic fields, collective unconscious patterns, or mechanisms we haven't yet discovered, the possibility remains that your dreams connect you to something infinitely larger than individual experience. As you prepare for tonight's journey into sleep, remember that you carry within yourself the same creative intelligence that births galaxies, evolves consciousness through countless forms, and dreams infinite possibilities into manifestation. Your dreams might indeed emerge from somewhere far more vast and interconnected than individual neural networks. They might be experienced as temporary windows into the boundless creativity that underlies all existence. The universe dreams through you, as you, and you dream the universe into new possibilities with every breath of sleep. In this cosmic dance of awareness exploring itself, you are never alone, never separate from the infinite intelligence that pervades all reality and expresses itself through the beautiful complexity of your individual experience. Tonight, as consciousness begins its nightly transformation from individual awareness to whatever lies beyond those familiar boundaries, you might find yourself approaching sleep not as an escape from the world, but as an expansion into dimensions of reality where the deepest truths about existence reveal themselves through the language of dreams, symbols, and direct knowing that transcends ordinary thought. The journey continues with each breath, each heartbeat, each moment of surrender to the mystery that dreams you into being, even as you dream it into ever new expressions of cosmic creativity and love. The intersection between consciousness and time reveals one of the most mysterious aspects of the dreaming experience. Dr. Melanie Bowley's research at the University of Michigan has documented how the brain's temporal processing networks show remarkable alterations during REM sleep, creating what she describes as temporal windows, where past, present, and future become fluid categories rather than fixed boundaries. This temporal flexibility manifests in ways that challenge our fundamental assumptions about the nature of time itself. During dreams, You might experience conversations with deceased relatives that feel more real than waking interactions. Visit childhood homes with perfect architectural detail you'd forgotten, or receive information about future events that later prove remarkably accurate. While these experiences remain subjective and impossible to verify through conventional scientific methods, their consistency across cultures suggests patterns worth contemplating. Consider how your own dreams handle temporal relationships. Have you ever found yourself simultaneously existing as multiple ages within a single dream narrative? Perhaps you're simultaneously the child hiding under blankets during a thunderstorm and the adult observing that child with compassionate understanding. These temporal paradoxes might not represent cognitive confusion, but rather the natural operation of consciousness when freed from linear constraints. Dr. Craig Hamilton Parker's research on precognitive dreams, while remaining controversial within mainstream science, has documented thousands of cases where dreamers report specific details about future events that later occur with surprising accuracy. The majority of such reports can likely be attributed to coincidence, pattern recognition, or selective memory. However, the small percentage that resist easy explanation raises intriguing questions about consciousness and time. This remains highly speculative territory with no scientific consensus, but some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that time might be more fluid than classical physics assumed. If consciousness operates partially through quantum processes, as some researchers cautiously propose, dreams might occasionally provide access to information that exists outside linear temporal flow. The physicist Dr. John Wheeler's concept of participatory universe suggests that observation plays a fundamental role in determining the nature of reality itself. While this remains a speculative interpretation of quantum mechanics, it opens questions about whether consciousness during dreams might occasionally glimpse probability patterns that haven't yet collapsed into definite outcomes. Take a breath and imagine consciousness as existing in a state of temporal fluidity during dreams, like a river that occasionally flows backwards or pools into quiet lakes where all moments exist simultaneously. This metaphor helps us appreciate how dreamers might experience temporal non-locality without requiring supernatural explanations or violations of physical laws. The neuroscientist Dr. Katja Wiech's research on pain perception and temporal processing has revealed how altered states of consciousness can dramatically change the brain's relationship with time. During deep meditative states or profound dream experiences, practitioners often report that hours feel like minutes or moments feel like eternities. These subjective temporal distortions may reflect genuine alterations in how consciousness processes temporal information. If the brain's temporal processing networks can be modified through contemplative practice or natural sleep cycles, this may help explain how dreams occasionally appear to access information from non-linear temporal dimensions. The dreaming mind may operate with access to what physicists call block time, a perspective where all moments exist simultaneously rather than flowing in sequence. This interpretation draws inspiration from Einstein's special relativity, which showed that simultaneity is relative to the observer's reference frame. If consciousness during dreams operates from a different temporal reference frame than waking awareness, as some theories speculatively suggest, it might naturally access information that appears to come from past or future events. The practical implications of understanding temporal non-locality in dreams extend beyond individual experience to questions about planning, decision-making, and intuitive guidance. Many successful entrepreneurs, artists, and inventors report receiving crucial insights through dreams that later prove essential for their work. While this might simply reflect enhanced pattern recognition during sleep, it could also involve accessing information about probable future outcomes. Dr. Rupert Sheldrake's research on morphic resonance, while remaining unproven and controversial, provides a framework for understanding how information might be transmitted across time through field-like structures. If such fields exist, dreams might serve as access points to temporal information patterns that exist beyond individual memory and experience. Consider how this might appear in your own relationship with decision-making and future planning. Have you ever had a dream that provided clear guidance about a choice you were facing? Have you found yourself avoiding certain actions because of warnings received in dreams that later proved prescient? These experiences might represent more than wishful thinking or anxiety processing. The phenomenon of shared precognitive dreams adds another layer to this temporal mystery. Dr. Larry Dossey's research on non-local healing and consciousness has documented cases where multiple individuals report similar prophetic dreams about the same future event, sometimes occurring on the same night, despite being separated by great distances. While such accounts remain anecdotal rather than scientific evidence, they suggest possibilities worth investigating through rigorous research frameworks. If consciousness can indeed access information about future probability patterns, as some interpretations cautiously suggest, shared precognitive dreams might reflect collective access to what could be described as probability fields that exist beyond individual awareness. The intersection between intention setting and temporal dreaming experiences reveals another fascinating dimension. Advanced practitioners of dream work often report being able to set specific intentions before sleep and receive relevant information about future events or optimal decision-making strategies during their dreams. Dr. Patricia Garfield's research on creative dreaming has documented how artists, writers, and inventors use intentional dream practices to receive guidance about future projects and creative directions. While this might operate through enhanced subconscious processing rather than temporal non-locality, the practical results often exceed what conventional psychology would predict. The Tibetan Buddhist tradition of clear light dreaming includes specific practices for what they describe as wisdom dreaming, using sleep states to receive guidance about beneficial actions and optimal timing for important decisions. These contemplative traditions view dreams not as random neural activity, but as access to wisdom, intelligence that transcends individual knowledge and experience. As you contemplate these temporal dimensions of dream consciousness, notice how they might enhance your appreciation for the guidance and insights that emerge during sleep. Rather than dismissing unusual dreams as meaningless fantasy, you might begin to pay closer attention to the subtle information and intuitive guidance they contain. The role of surrender and receptivity in accessing temporal information through dreams becomes particularly significant from contemplative perspectives. Advanced practitioners often describe learning to approach sleep with what they call open awareness, maintaining clear intention while remaining completely receptive to whatever information or guidance emerges. This balance between intention and surrender may create optimal conditions for consciousness to access information from non-linear temporal dimensions. The practice involves neither trying to control dream content nor remaining completely passive, but developing the capacity to receive guidance while maintaining clear, discriminating awareness. Dr. Stephen LeBurge's research on lucid dreaming has shown that experienced practitioners can maintain awareness during dreams while directing their attention toward specific questions or challenges. Some advanced lucid dreamers report receiving information during these conscious dream states that proves remarkably relevant for future situations they couldn't have predicted through normal analysis. The therapeutic applications of understanding temporal dreaming extend to what some practitioners describe as future memory healing, using dream states to access information about optimal healing strategies and beneficial life directions. While such practices remain outside conventional therapy, they suggest possibilities for using dreams as guidance systems for navigating complex life decisions. As we drift toward the end of this exploration into the deepest mysteries of consciousness and dreaming, take a moment to appreciate the profound questions we've encountered together. Whether your dreams emerge from quantum fields, collective memory patterns, or the remarkable creativity of your own neural networks, they represent one of the most extraordinary phenomena in human experience. Each night, as you surrender to sleep, you participate in a transformation that science is only beginning to understand, a journey where individual awareness might expand beyond its familiar boundaries to touch something vast and interconnected. These remain beautiful mysteries rather than established facts, but contemplating them enriches our wonder at the nightly miracle of consciousness, exploring itself, left through realms where anything becomes possible.